Genesis 22 is a powerful passage. It is filled with meaning, filled with great significance, not just for the life of Abraham and Isaac and the sort of the picture that it paints, but also for the bigger picture and how it sort of fits in to the bigger narrative, the bigger story of the Bible. It says this: after these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and Abraham said, here I am. And God said, take your son, your only son Isaac, which is interesting because he had a son Ishmael, but this was really the son of the promise. He said, take your son whom you love and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. I mean, could you imagine this? God had made this promise to Abraham. I mean, this whole journey that we've been on with Abraham, and here this child of promise is. Could you imagine God saying this to you? And remember, it says that this is a test, right? God tested Abraham. So let's see how this test plays out. I'll let you read this for yourself. If you don't know the story, it's a beautiful story, and it's a true story. And put yourself in the story and journal on this if you could. But here's what happens. He's about ready to do it. He's lifting the knife over his head. I'm sure this was so hard for him to do. And then God sent an angel and stopped him and said, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing that you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And so God provides a different sacrifice, a ram that's caught in a thicket. And so Abraham sacrifices the ram instead, which is also filled with meaning, because part of the story here makes you think about God the Father sending his only son and going through with it and sacrificing his only son for us, for our sins. But that's for another day. But right here it says in verse 15, an angel of the Lord called on Abraham a second time from heaven, and he said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you. I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. So again, he's reiterating his promise. And your offspring shall possess the gate of your enemies, the land. And in your offspring, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So notice, if you compare Genesis 22 with Genesis 12, this is that same threefold promise, the promise of a nation, the promise of a land, and the promise of a blessing on all nations. And so he reiterates this promise that he had given back in Genesis 12 and again in Genesis 15. And so now he says it here in Genesis 22. And what a powerful passage. This is one you're going to want to read a couple of times, journal on it, maybe talk with a group or a mentor about it. And then tomorrow we're going to jump back to the New Testament, Hebrews chapter 11, where we're going to unpack this story a little bit more in the light of a New Testament author where Abraham makes it into the Faith Hall of Fame. This is the reason Abraham makes it into the Faith Hall of Fame, because he passed the test. So read Genesis 22. We'll see you tomorrow for the next reading.